First contact in the asteroid belt. The mining vessel Rockhopper wasn't much to look at. Its hull bore the scars of 1,000 minor collisions with space debris, and its internal systems were a patchwork of repairs and upgrades. But to Captain Sarah Chen, it was home. She'd spent the last 5 years commanding this floating workshop through the asteroid belt, extracting valuable minerals for Earth's growing space industry. "Captain, we've got something weird on the long-range scanners," called out Marcus Rodriguez from his station. The young sensor operator's voice carried an edge of excitement that made Sarah sit up straighter in her chair. "Define weird, Marcus," she replied, pushing off from her station to float toward his console. Well, it's not registering as normal matter. The density readings are all wrong, and it's got an electromagnetic signature I've never seen before." Marcus's fingers danced across his console, bringing up more detailed scans. "It's about 3 kilometers off our starboard side, nestled in the shadow of asteroid NX 249. Sarah studied the readings, her experienced eyes narrowing. After 15 years in space, she learned to trust her instincts. "Wake up Dr. Harrison," she ordered. "I want our science officer's opinion on this." Within minutes, Dr. Emily Harrison arrived on the bridge, her gray hair floating around her head like a storm cloud. She took one look at the sensor readings and went pale. "This is impossible," she whispered. "Care to share with the class?" Sarah asked, trying to keep her tone light despite the growing tension in her gut. "These readings, they're consistent with theoretical models of artificial gravity manipulation. But we're decades away from that technology. Maybe centuries." Emily's fingers trembled as she brought up more detailed analysis. Whatever that is, it wasn't built by human hands. The bridge fell silent. Sarah felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her shoulders. First contact, the moment humanity had been simultaneously dreaming of and dreading for generations. And it was happening here, on her beaten-up mining vessel. "Send a message to Earth Control," she ordered, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Priority 1. Then bring us in closer, but maintain safe distance. Launch probes for detailed scanning." As the Rockhopper carefully maneuvered closer, the object came into visual range. It was like nothing they'd ever seen before. A sleek vessel about twice the size of their ship, with a hull that seemed to ripple like liquid metal. But what caught Sarah's attention were the obvious signs of damage. Deep gashes marred one side of the ship, and its power signature was erratic. "It's wounded," she murmured. "They're hurt and hiding." Before anyone could respond, their communication system crackled to life. A series of complex mathematical sequences scrolled across their screens, prime numbers, geometric progressions, the basics of universal language. Emily's fingers flew across her console as she worked to establish communication. "They're smart," she said, "using math as a foundation for communication. I'm running our first contact protocols through the computer now." Hours passed as the two vessels engaged in an increasingly complex exchange of mathematical and scientific concepts, building a rudimentary language. Sarah watched in amazement as Emily worked tirelessly, her scientific training proving invaluable in this unprecedented situation. Finally, Emily looked up, her eyes wide. I think I can translate now. They're calling themselves the Variks. They're not just a single ship. They're scouts for a much larger fleet, a refugee fleet." Sarah leaned forward. "What happened to them?" Emily's expression grew grave as she translated the alien response. "Their home system was dying, their star becoming unstable. They evacuated their entire civilization, millions of souls, onto massive ships. But something went wrong during their journey. Their primary drive systems are failing, and they're losing power. This scout ship was sent ahead to look for help. And they found us," Marcus whispered. "Just a mining ship in the asteroid belt." Sarah squared her shoulders. "No, they found humanity, and we're going to help them." She turned to her communications officer. "Send everything we've learned to Earth Control. Tell them we need every engineer, every physicist, every problem solver they can spare. The Variks chose to ask us for help. Let's show them they made the right choice." As the message raced toward Earth at the speed of light, Sarah looked out at the alien vessel. Its hull still shimmered despite the damage, a testament to technology far beyond human understanding. Yet here they were, turning to humanity for help. Perhaps, she thought, there was something to be said for human ingenuity after all. "Dr. Harrison," she called out, "begin preparing for possible docking procedures. Marcus, I want continuous scans of that ship's power systems. If they're failing, we need to know how fast." She paused, allowing herself a small smile. Let's make first contact count. The next few hours would change the course of human history forever. But for now, in the cold silence of the asteroid belt, two vessels from different worlds began the delicate dance of trust and cooperation that would mark humanity's first steps into a larger universe. The Engineering Challenge. 2 weeks after first contact, Earth's largest space station, Horizon 1, buzzed with unprecedented activity. The station's main conference room had been transformed into an emergency command center, where Dr. Michael Patel stood before a wall of holographic displays showing the full scope of the Variks refugee crisis. Their main fleet consists of 17 generation ships, he explained to the assembled team of Earth's finest engineers. Each vessel carries approximately 100,000 refugees. Their primary quantum fold drives are failing, and they're trapped in a degrading orbit just beyond Neptune's path. Dr. Maya Wong, Earth's leading expert in theoretical propulsion, raised her hand. "I've reviewed their technical specifications. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours, but their power requirements are astronomical. Even if we combine the output of every fusion reactor on Earth, we couldn't generate enough energy to jumpstart their systems." The room erupted in murmurs of defeat, but a voice cut through the noise. "Then we don't try to match their technology." All heads turned toward James Cooper, a retired submarine engineer who'd been brought in for his expertise in unconventional problem-solving. He stood up, his weathered face creased in thought. "We're thinking about this all wrong." Cooper walked to the main display, pointing to the alien ship's power distribution network. "Look at their system architecture. Yes, their quantum drives are beyond us, but their basic power distribution follows universal principles. It's like trying to start a Tesla with a dead battery. You don't need another Tesla. You just need jumper cables and any working vehicle." Dr. Patel's eyes widened as he caught on. "You're suggesting we bypass their main drive systems entirely?" "Exactly," Cooper nodded. "We can't match their technology, but we can give them enough power to restart their basic systems. Once they have minimal power restored, their own regenerative systems can take over." Maya studied the diagrams intently. "We'd need to design completely new interfaces between our technology and theirs. Their power transmission systems operate on principles we barely understand." "Then we learn," Cooper replied simply. "The Variks have engineers too. We work together, combine our knowledge. Human ingenuity plus alien technology. Think of the possibilities." The next few days saw Horizon 1 transform into a unique laboratory. Variks engineers were shuttled aboard, their tall, silvery forms becoming a common sight in the station's corridors. The cultural exchange was as challenging as the technical one. The aliens communicated through a combination of bioluminescent patterns and mathematical concepts that took time to translate. But the universal language of engineering bridged many gaps. Human engineers marveled at the elegant complexity of alien technology, while the Variks showed surprising interest in humanity's primitive but robust solutions. Together, they began designing what Cooper called the biggest jumper cables in history. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Lisa Chen, a graduate student who'd been documenting the project, noticed something while reviewing old Earth technologies. "Look at these diagrams of early electrical transformers," she said during one late-night session. "The principles are similar to how the Variks modulate their quantum fields. What if we built a hybrid system?" The idea sparked a frenzy of activity. Human manufacturing facilities began producing modified fusion reactors, while Vark's engineers adapted their power receivers. The design was ugly by alien standards, a mess of human electronics and crystalline alien technology, held together by what one Vark's engineer called impressively primitive but effective welding. But in initial tests, it worked. The hybrid power system successfully channeled energy from human fusion reactors into alien systems, converting it into forms their technology could use. It wasn't elegant, but it might save millions of lives. "We'll need hundreds of these units," Dr. Patil announced to the team. "And we'll have to install them in space, under extreme conditions. The Varric ships can't maintain life support much longer." Cooper looked around the room at the determined faces of both human and alien engineers. "Then we better get started. Humanity's first galactic rescue mission begins now." As the team dispersed to begin the massive production effort, Maya caught up with Cooper in the corridor. "You know, even if this works, it's just a temporary solution. Their ships will still need major repairs." Cooper smiled. "True, but sometimes you just need to keep the lights on long enough to figure out the rest. That's what humans do best. We find a way, then we find a better way." Outside Horizon 1's windows, Earth glowed blue and beautiful. Somewhere out there, millions of alien refugees waited in failing ships, their hopes pinned on what most advanced species would consider primitive technology. But as human and Varric's engineers worked side by side, it became clear that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most powerful. The greatest engineering challenge in human history was underway, and humanity was about to prove that innovation wasn't just about having the most advanced technology. It was about having the creativity and determination to use what you had in ways nobody had imagined before. Operation Bootstrap. The void between Neptune and Pluto became a hive of activity as Earth launched its most ambitious space operation in history, dubbed Operation Bootstrap. The mission involved over 50 human vessels, carrying the hybrid power systems toward the stranded Varric's fleet. Commander Elena Santos stood on the bridge of the Earth Fleet Endeavour, the operation's flagship, watching as another cargo ship docked with one of the massive alien vessels. The contrast was striking. Earth's utilitarian ships looked like tugboats next to ocean liners when compared to the sleek, crystalline forms of Varric's architecture. Status update on Installation Team 7. Her XO, Lieutenant David Park, called out. Team 7 reports successful interface connection, responded the communications officer. They're beginning power-up sequence on the western hull segment. Elena nodded, checking the massive holographic display showing the status of all 17 Varric ships. 5 were now outlined in yellow, indicating partial power restoration. But 12 remained in critical red, their life support systems running on emergency reserves. A soft chiming announced the arrival of Carl, the Varric's fleet's chief engineer. The tall alien skin rippled with patterns of blue and gold, what Elena had learned to recognize as signs of both worry and hope. "Your people work with remarkable speed," Carl said, their words translated by the newly developed interface. "Though I must admit, watching them attach fusion reactors to our quantum matrices is unsettling." Elena smiled. "Sometimes the best solutions aren't the prettiest ones. How are your passengers holding up?" Carol's skin dimmed slightly. "The children are struggling the most with the low power conditions. Many of our environmental systems are operating at minimal capacity, but your team's progress gives us hope." A sudden alarm cut through their conversation. Red lights flashed across the bridge as multiple alerts sounded at once. "Emergency in Sector 7. Lieutenant Park shouted. "We're losing power transfer on the Starweaver." Installation Team 3 reports critical feedback in the interface. Elena was already moving. "Get me visual. What's happening?" The main screen showed one of the hybrid power units beginning to overload, its human components glowing dangerously hot where they met alien technology. Sparks of quantum energy crackled around the connection points. "The power conversion rate is destabilizing," Carl said, their skin now pulsing with urgent patterns. If the feedback loop continues, it could trigger a cascade failure across all connected systems. Elena's mind raced. They couldn't afford to lose any of the progress they'd made. The lives of thousands depended on these connections working. Can we shut it down remotely? Negative, Park responded. The feedback is affecting our control systems. Someone has to manually disconnect the power coupling. Carl added. But the quantum discharge makes it too dangerous for either your species or mine to approach. Elena was about to order an emergency evacuation when a new voice broke in over the comm. This is Engineer Sarah Wu, Installation Team 3. I have an idea. Go ahead, Engineer Wu. The quantum feedback is following a pattern. If we time it right, there's a 3-second window between discharges. I can reach the emergency disconnect, but I'll need precise timing. Elena exchanged looks with Carl. The risk was enormous, but the alternative was losing the entire power grid they'd established. What do you need? Have Carl's people analyze the discharge pattern. They can predict the gaps better than our computers. Then give me a countdown. The next few minutes were tense as Vartex scientists worked with human computers to model the feedback pattern. Sarah Wu, protected only by a standard EVA suit, waited near the failing interface. Pattern locked, Carl announced, their skin glowing with concentration. Next window in 10 seconds. Elena held her breath as they counted down. At 0, Wu pushed off and flew toward the coupling. Quantum energy crackled around her as she reached for the disconnect lever. For a heart-stopping moment, it looked like she wouldn't make it in time. Then the power coupling separated with a flash of light. The feedback readings immediately began to stabilize. Connection severed, Wu reported, her voice shaky but professional. Requesting retrieval. A cheer went up across the bridge. But Elena noticed Carl's skin showing patterns she'd never seen before. Is everything all right? She asked the alien engineer. We had calculated the risk of that maneuver, Carl responded. By our standards, it was too dangerous to attempt. Yet your engineer did it anyway. How do you humans make such decisions? Elena thought for a moment. We weigh the risks against the consequences of an action. Sometimes, the only way forward is through the fire. Carol's skin rippled with new understanding. Perhaps this is why the universe guided us to your system. You possess something we had forgotten. The courage to attempt the impossible. Over the next few days, Operation Bootstrap continued with renewed vigor. The near disaster had taught both species valuable lessons about their technology's interaction, leading to improvements in the interface design. More importantly, it had deepened the trust between humans and Vartex. As Elena watched another power unit come online successfully, she reflected on Carl's words. Humanity might not have the most advanced technology in the galaxy, but they had something just as valuable. The determination to find solutions where none seemed possible. The operation was far from over, but with each successful connection, they were proving that sometimes the greatest achievements come not from having the best tools, but from having the will to use whatever tools you have to their fullest potential. Crisis point. 3 weeks into Operation Bootstrap, disaster struck without warning. The quantum feedback issue that Sarah Wu had contained on the Starweaver was just the beginning. Like a virus spreading through a network, power fluctuations began appearing across multiple ships simultaneously. Status report. Commander Elena Santos barked, watching as warning indicators multiplied across her holographic display. Lieutenant Park's fingers flew across his console. We're seeing critical instabilities in the power grid. The hybrid systems are generating some kind of resonance effect. It's spreading through the Vartex ship's quantum networks. Carol burst onto the bridge, their skin flashing urgent patterns of red and black. The quantum matrices are destabilizing. The energy feedback is creating micro-tears in space-time around our ships. In English, please, Elena demanded, though her gut was already telling her this was bad. The interaction between your fusion power and our quantum systems is having an unexpected effect on local space-time, Carl explained. If we cannot contain it, It could create a cascade of quantum ruptures that would destroy both fleets. The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. They had hours, maybe minutes, before their rescue mission turned into the greatest disaster in human history. Options, she asked, forcing her voice to remain steady. We need to shut down all power systems simultaneously, Carl said. But doing so would leave our ships without life support. 2 million of my people would die within hours. Engineer Wu's voice came over the comm. What if we didn't shut everything down? What if we inverted the power flow instead? All eyes turned to the main screen showing Wu's face, streaked with sweat despite the climate control, in her EVA suit. Explain, Elena ordered. The resonance is building because we're pushing power into their systems. But what if we reversed it? Use their remaining quantum energy to power down our fusion reactors in a controlled sequence. Carol's skin rippled with rapid calculations. The theory is sound, but the timing would have to be perfect. All reactors would need to be adjusted simultaneously. A delay of even microseconds could trigger the cascade. How many reactor control stations do we need to modify? Elena asked. 57, Park answered, spread across 17 ships. Elena straightened in her chair. How many EVA teams do we have available? 43 teams operational. But, Commander, even if we had enough teams, the coordination required would be impossible. We'd need superhuman reaction times. A new voice joined the conversation. Dr. Michael Patel, speaking from Horizon 1. Not superhuman. Just synchronized. Give me an hour with the Varix engineers. We can rig their quantum communication network to coordinate the power inversion. For a moment, nobody spoke. What they were considering had never been attempted. Linking human and alien technology in real time, coordinating actions across millions of kilometers of space. Elena made her decision. You have 30 minutes, Doctor. Everyone else, prepare your teams. We do this by the numbers. What followed was the most intense half-hour of Elena's career. While Patel and the Varix engineers worked on the coordination system, EVA teams raced to their assigned reactors. Every available engineer, human and Varix alike, worked to prepare their systems for the unprecedented power inversion. Engineering teams report ready, Park announced finally. Elena looked at Carl, who nodded solemnly. The quantum network is synchronized. We are prepared. All teams, this is Commander Santos. Elena broadcast across all channels. What we're about to attempt has never been done before. But that's nothing new for humanity, is it? We do the impossible because nobody told us we couldn't. Stand by for countdown. The next 3 minutes were the longest of Elena's life. She watched as the countdown reached 0, and 57 teams acted as one. Human fusion reactors spun down as Varix quantum matrices pulsed with carefully calculated energy bursts. For one terrible moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the warning indicators began to fade. The quantum resonance dissipated like morning fog under a rising sun. Resonance patterns stabilizing, Carl reported, their skin glowing with relief. The cascade has been prevented. A cheer went up across the bridge, but Elena wasn't finished. Damage report. Multiple systems stressed but holding, Park reported. We lost 6 fusion reactors in the inversion, but the Varix ship's life support systems are stable on their reduced power mode. Elena finally allowed herself to breathe. They'd done it. Not just prevented disaster, but proved that human and alien technology could work together in ways neither species had imagined possible. Commander, Carl said softly, my people have a saying. In the darkest void, the smallest light shows the way. Today, humanity's light showed us more than the way. It showed us that sometimes the greatest advances come from facing our greatest fears. As teams began the careful process of stabilizing the remaining systems, Elena reflected on how far they'd come. What had started as a desperate rescue mission had evolved into something more, a proof that different species, different technologies, different ways of thinking could come together to achieve the impossible. The crisis wasn't over. They still had to find a permanent solution for the Varix fleet, but they had overcome their greatest challenge yet, and they had done it together. Legacy of Two Worlds. 6 months after Operation Bootstrap began, the last of the Varix ships pulsed with renewed energy, their crystalline hulls glowing with their characteristic blue-white light. The combined fleet of human and alien vessels hung in space near Neptune's orbit, a sight that would have been unimaginable just months ago. On the observation deck of Horizon 1, Commander Elena Santos stood with Coral, watching as engineers made final adjustments to the revolutionary hybrid power systems that had saved millions of lives. "Your ships look much better with their lights on," Elena commented, earning a shimmer of amusement from Carl's bioluminescent skin. "Indeed, though I suspect neither of our species will ever be quite the same after this." Carl turned to face her. "Our council has reached a decision about our next steps." Elena tensed slightly. The question of what would happen after the rescue had been weighing on everyone's minds. Would the Varix continue their journey to their original destination? Would they stay? "We would like to propose a permanent settlement in your solar system," Carl said. "Not Earth itself. We understand the complexities that would involve. But perhaps the Kuiper Belt region. Our ships can be converted into permanent habitats." Elena smiled. She'd suspected this might be coming. "I think Earth's governments will be very interested in that proposal, especially given what your people have offered to share in return." The payment the Varix had proposed wasn't their advanced technology. They'd wisely recognized that giving humanity quantum drive technology too quickly could be destabilizing. Instead, they offered something more valuable: knowledge, scientific insights, mathematical principles, and most importantly, their vast astronomical databases mapping millions of star systems. "The hybrid systems we created together proved something remarkable," Carl continued, their skin patterns shifting to thoughtful hues. "Sometimes the combination of different approaches yields better results than either could achieve alone. Your fusion technology, modified by our quantum principles, is more efficient than either of our original systems." It was true. The emergency solution they'd created had evolved into something new, a perfect synthesis of human pragmatism and Varix elegance. Already, scientists from both species were exploring applications beyond power generation. "There's something else," Carl added. "Our long-range sensors have detected other refugee fleets out there, species displaced by dying stars, cosmic disasters, or their own mistakes. The galaxy is full of wanderers looking for help." Elena caught their meaning immediately. "You think we could help them too? Who better? Your species has proven remarkably adept at finding unconventional solutions to seemingly impossible problems. Perhaps this is humanity's role in the galaxy, not just explorers or innovators, but problem solvers." Before Elena could respond, her communicator chimed. Dr. Patel's excited voice came through. "Commander, you need to see this. The latest tests on the hybrid quantum fusion drive are off the charts. We're achieving power levels that neither of our species could generate alone." Speaking of solving problems, Elena said to Carl, "Shall we?" As they made their way to the laboratory, they passed dozens of human and Varix crew members working side by side. What had begun as an emergency cooperation had blossomed into genuine collaboration. Human engineers now spoke passable Varix mathematical language, while Varix scientists had developed an appreciation for what they called human intuitive problem-solving. In the lab, Dr. Patel and a team of mixed-species engineers crowded around a prototype of the new drive system. It was a perfect visual representation of their partnership, human-built fusion components seamlessly integrated with Varix quantum matrices, creating something entirely new. "The efficiency readings are revolutionary," Patel explained. "This could change everything: space travel, power generation, even terraforming capabilities." "It already has changed everything," Elena said softly, watching human and alien engineers celebrate together. Just not in the way anyone expected. Later that night, Elena stood alone on the observation deck, looking out at the combined fleet. The Varric ships no longer looked alien to her eyes. They had become part of humanity's story, just as humanity had become part of theirs. A message from Earth Command flashed on her screen. The final approval for the Varric settlement proposal. But it was more than that. Earth's governments had unanimously approved the creation of a new organization, the Interstellar Rescue and Aid Initiative. Its mission: to seek out other civilizations in need and offer humanity's unique brand of help. Elena smiled. Carl was right. This was humanity's role in the galaxy, not to dominate with advanced technology, but to innovate, to find solutions where none seemed possible, to offer help when others had given up. As she watched a shuttle traverse between a human vessel and a Varric ship, Elena thought about how far they'd come. They had saved millions of lives, but they'd gained something even more valuable: a new understanding of humanity's place in the universe. They weren't the most advanced species in the galaxy. They weren't the strongest or the wisest, but they had something special: the ability to look at an impossible problem and see possibilities where others saw only obstacles. And now, they had friends among the stars who understood and valued that gift. The future stretched out before them, full of challenges and opportunities. But that was nothing new for humanity. After all, solving the impossible was what they did best.